In the brutal universe of Predator, very few humans can say they've seen the face of a Yautja and lived to tell the tale. But among them, there are two who not only survived, they learned how to hunt them. Today I'll tell you the complete and chronological story of Royce and Isabelle, the protagonists of Predators from 2010. From their most disastrous missions on Earth, where they were already elite warriors marked by tragedy, to their deadly confrontation with the super predators on the game-preserved planet, and what happened to them after the film's ending. Royce wasn't always the cold-blooded mercenary we saw dropped into the alien jungle. Long before waking up on that strange planet, he was a highly trained elite soldier in the US military. Specializing in extraction operations in conflict zones, Royce was efficient, methodical, and lethal. But everything changed in the Philippines. During what was supposed to be a routine mission, bad intel led Royce to destroy a building believed to house terrorists. The emotional fallout was immediate and devastating, because what he didn't know and never dared say out loud was that in the basement of that building, there was a school full of women and children. That moment would haunt him forever, though he would never admit it. After the Philippines, his reputation changed. From disciplined soldier to emotionless executioner. That persona made him attractive to the kind of employers who operated in the shadows. Powerful people with no morals. Royce became a weapon for hire, answering only to the highest bidder. That's how he ended up in Africa, under the scorching sun, surrounded by the stench of blood, dust, and corruption. This time the job came from a general who controlled a war-torn region. The objective? Eliminate rebel leader Yautja and his entire militia. Royce agreed, but only if he got 2/3 of the payment up front. He didn't trust men in uniform, and he trusted even less those who hired him to do their dirty work. He knew betrayal was inevitable. In the refugee camp, Royce watched the chaos unfold with cold detachment. Women being beaten, children crying for food, but none of it moved him anymore. When he met Bapoto, the general's envoy, he immediately knew it was a setup. They tried to distract him with imported brandy and tropical fruit, as if that could mask their corruption. But Royce saw through it. He knew Bapoto had been sent not just to assist him, but to kill him once the job was done. So he struck first, quick, clean, and without hesitation. He left Bapoto's body behind in the jungle, and 3 days later, Royce arrived at the rebel village where Kuti was hiding. From a ridge, he watched silently, and among the armed men below, he recognized someone. Travis, a Western mercenary he'd once served with in Pakistan. And with that, Royce understood the situation perfectly. The rebels had also hired killers, because in a world like his, loyalty means nothing. Everything has a price. At this point, Royce executed his plan with surgical precision. He shot one of Kuti's men to simulate an external attack, which triggered the rest of the group to abandon the camp in a rush. Then Royce infiltrated the village, sabotaged the vehicles, planted explosives, and set the huts on fire. It was a surgical strike disguised as a massacre, designed to sow chaos and confusion. Eventually, he found Kuti inside his cabin. The rebel tried to justify himself with a speech about morality and good and evil, but Royce cut him off mid-sentence with a bullet, and that's when everything changed. A mother appeared, holding her baby in her arms. Reflexively, Royce fired and hit her. The memory of the Philippines came back like a sledgehammer to the chest. But this time, he had a chance to redeem himself, and he didn't take it. When Travis and his men returned to the camp, Royce used the wounded woman and her child as bait. One by one, he lured the mercenaries into ambushes and killed them, all except for Travis. He chased him down to the beach where a jeep was waiting, its driver already dead. Royce said nothing. Travis looked at him and muttered, "You're the villain in this story, man." To which Royce, cold and detached, replied, "I'm the villain in every story," and then shot him without hesitation. The mission was over, but what Royce didn't know was that someone had been watching him the entire time. A Yautja known as Tracker had been observing from the jungle. He'd seen Royce's brutality, his cunning, and, most of all, his raw will to survive. To the predators, Royce wasn't a monster. He was a challenge. That's why, later that night, he was ambushed and taken. Sergeant Major Isabelle Abigail Nissenbaum was an elite sniper in the Israeli military. From a very young age, she demonstrated an unusual gift, the ability to go unnoticed, to move in silence, and to remain utterly calm even in the heart of chaos. In the convent where she was raised, the nuns feared her for her eerie stillness. To her classmates, she simply didn't exist. She was invisible, but that invisibility wasn't a curse. It was the beginning of her training. That gift would become a weapon. Because of this, her talent was quickly recognized, and she was recruited into special forces. Isabelle was molded into what her government needed most: a ghost, a deadly shadow gliding through the foliage without leaving a trace, a precise, silent, lethal executor. Over time, her name became known in certain military circles, and she was decorated as her missions piled up. But Isabelle never saw herself as a hero. She carried the weight of irreparable decisions, scars that couldn't be seen but never faded. One of them came during a mission in Afghanistan, where she took out a target, a woman who was holding her small child in her arms. In another operation, she accidentally killed an ally in a friendly fire incident. These events left a deep mark on her soul because as a religious woman, she believed her actions had condemned her to eternal damnation. And yet, she kept going. Later, she was deployed to Guatemala alongside her teammate Archuleta, who may have been a relative of Danny Archuleta from Predator 2. Their mission: track down a group of insurgents. Officially, it was a routine neutralization operation. Unofficially, they were looking for evidence related to a creature that, according to rumors, had wiped out an entire elite squad in that same jungle back in 1987. Isabelle had heard the stories: an invisible entity, an alien hunter, something not human. They called it a soulless demon. For her, this wasn't just another job. It was a personal obsession. But that obsession came at a cost. They let their guard down, and Archuleta was captured. Isabelle found them. She had the enemy in her sights. She could have pulled the trigger. She could have saved him. But she didn't. She analyzed the terrain, calculated the risks, and hesitated. Too many enemies. Too much noise. A cold, rational, and condemning decision. Because of that choice, she was forced to watch her teammate be executed, and she never forgave herself. Following that failure, she was reassigned. Her next target, Alvaro Otti, a former Guatemalan Kaibil turned trafficker, not just of drugs, but of people. The trail led her once more into the Guatemalan jungle, this time with a small strike team. Her precision was essential. She moved like a phantom, eliminating targets quickly and efficiently. But what she didn't know was that from the treetops, something else was watching, something that found her. Fascinating. One by one, her team was wiped out. Her comrade Bulla was used as bait to lure her out. And when the moment was right, they took her. Not to kill her, not yet, but to take her with them. Royce and Isabelle were abducted alongside other killers, soldiers, and criminals, and dropped into an alien jungle with no idea they were on the game-preserved planet, a hunting ground used by a faction of Yautja known as the Super Predators. Together, they managed to survive the deadly planet, outwitting and outlasting these dangerous hunters one by one, including their brutal leader, Berserker, and they came out alive. At the end of the movie, we see them holding each other, looking up as new parachutes fall from the sky. These new arrivals made one thing clear: the cycle was repeating. But Royce was no longer just a survivor. He had become a predator himself, and he was ready to hunt. Weeks after their initial battle on the Super Predator planet, Royce was still surviving however he could. He hunted relentlessly, tracking the various creatures the Yautja released for their twisted sport, and scavenged every bit of technology he could to stay alive. But in the back of his mind, a thought haunted him: regret. He regretted going back for Isabelle at the end of the 2010 film. At this point, Royce believed that if he continued like this, he'd end up just like Noland, completely alone and mentally shattered. Ironically, that decision, not boarding the ship that could have taken him home in order to save Isabelle, was what actually saved his life. Because what he didn't know was that Berserker had triggered the ship's self-destruct sequence. Royce assumed the ship had simply left without him. As time passed, Royce began to form a deeper bond with Isabelle, who he now simply called Izzy. But true to his nature, he pulled away again, returning to his solitary hunts. During one of those expeditions, he was badly injured, and when he stumbled back to their shelter, he collapsed, unconscious, for days. Isabelle stayed by his side the entire time, healing his wounds, maintaining the camp, and protecting him. Then something unexpected happened. A Yautja appeared, but not to kill them. Instead, it left behind a box filled with hunting gear customized for Royce. A plasma caster, armor, wrist blades, all tailored specifically for him. But the real challenge came soon after. They were ambushed by a mutated Yautja, a towering beast with 4 arms. Royce was wounded during the fight, but this time he didn't face the monster alone. He fought side by side with Isabelle, and together they brought it down. It was in that moment that both understood. The only way to survive was as a team. Eventually, Royce and Isabelle discovered the journal of another human survivor, a sniper named Orion, who had managed to gain the respect of the Yautja and even trained a group of them. That information helped them better understand their hunters and to begin planning an escape. But everything changed when Royce used the vision mode in his armor to follow a heat trail that led to a Yautja landing site. There, he found 2 ships, a large transport vessel and a smaller scout craft. He brought Isabelle with him, and when they arrived, she believed they would finally escape using the smaller ship. But Royce had other plans. There, he confessed to her that he didn't want to leave. Not yet. He wanted to stay. He wanted to face the predators directly. One last time. Isabelle tried to make him see reason. She begged Royce to leave with her, to stop risking his life, that it wasn't worth it. But Royce had already made up his mind. In his eyes, the gift the Yautja had left for him wasn't just a sign of respect. It was a challenge, a reminder that he still had something to prove. Royce activated the larger ship and departed, leaving Isabelle with the smaller one. Luckily, thanks to the adjustments Royce had made, the ship recognized Isabelle as if she were one of the Yautja and allowed her to take off. And so she managed to return to Earth alone. After escaping the game-preserved planet, Isabelle accomplished something that very few ever have, piloting a Yautja ship back to Earth. She was intercepted not long after re-entry and detained at a secret facility. The interrogators quickly admitted that they had no jurisdiction to hold her. They didn't even understand how she had managed to pilot an alien craft. But they were desperate for answers. Now officially listed as absent without leave by her own government, Isabelle was questioned by members of an international special task force investigating the Yautja threat, what we know as the OWLF. And she told them everything. How she had been abducted during a mission, how she woke up falling from the sky with an automatically deploying parachute, and how she ended up among a group of assassins, mercenaries, and soldiers from across the world. All of them had one thing in common. They were killing machines. Isabelle explained how she survived, how Royce, a lone pragmatic mercenary, became her ally, and how in the end, he chose to stay behind. During her testimony, Isabelle was clear. She didn't admire the Yautja, but she did understand their brutal logic. She also admitted that piloting their ship was a mix of instinct, military training, trial and error, and faith. Many of the ship's interfaces used icons and basic holograms, almost as if the hunters themselves didn't fully understand how the technology worked. They only knew how to use it. This ties into the ancient history of the predators. Long ago, they were known as the Hish, a race enslaved by the Amengi, an insectoid species that conquered planets. With the help of their leader Kaio, the Hish rebelled against the Amengi, overthrew them, and took their technology. That's how the predators became an interstellar species. In the end, Isabelle spent weeks alone on that ship, rationing supplies, sleeping among alien systems, until Earth finally appeared, vast and blue, in her window. Her return was a miracle, but for many it was also an invaluable opportunity. The OWLF agents offered her a place in their international unit tasked with hunting predators. She declined, but not completely. She kept their card and said she'd think about it. And that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe if you haven't yet, and hit that bell icon to stay up to date with my latest videos. See you in the next one.